Okay, moving on. So typically when I'm planning a conference program, I don't like a lot of panels. And the reason for that is because it's sometimes unusual to get really interesting topics presented in a panelist format. However, Jan Wagner from Cliffhanger proposed this particular panel, and I thought it was super interesting because the reality of the situation is the browser game market has changed a lot over the last couple of years, especially here. It was really big, and then maybe it wasn't so big, and then Facebook came along, and then there's a question of whether those browser games are applicable to Facebook, and then there was some other big things happening, like the Big Point. So this is a panel that Jan has put together to talk about what the heck is happening in the browser games market and what that means in the coming years. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jan, and away you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the reason I do this panel is really because I'm very lazy, and this is the easiest way to get like all the information in one room. And I usually do the panel, and it's sort of a tradition by now, because I've got a lot of questions, and usually I just like to ask these people, and it's the only chance I really get to meet them and ask them questions. So I'll invite you to join me in asking questions. So whenever you have a question, please just wave your hand, jump up and down, or holler, and we'll try to get to that. Without further ado. Yeah, my name is Jan Wagner. I'm running Cliffhanger Productions. We are a small independent development team, and, well, that's about all you need to know from us. But the more interesting people here are obviously at the table. I have to go down and look at the title so I don't get it right. Okay, we'll do it by prettiness. Heiko Huberts, who's CEO and founder of Big Point. We've got Markus Brichtmann down there, who is currently the managing director of Pro7 Sat. What's the acronym? Pro7 Sat.1 Intermedia, I think. Florian Bohn from Travian. Hendrik Lindwort, from the CEO of InnoGames. Mark Neufurt, the chief analyst of Gameforge. And Christian Sauer, head of product management at Gamigo. Now, we are talking a bit about the current situation in the browser games market, and by calling it a situation, we already sort of come to that point where it gets interesting, because it's been growth and more growth until fairly recently, and it's probably still solid growth for most, but it's getting more difficult to achieve this growth, and I think there's different issues affecting most of the companies in here, and some more than others. And there's all of a sudden different solutions, whereas before there was really like, this is company A and this is company B, they're all making a lot of money with different games that are essentially not that different. By now we've seen a lot of companies spread out in a very different way, and I'm trying to get to some of them. I'll start by asking each company a question, and I'll start with Gameforge because they're so easy to pick on currently. Oh. You've been doing a lot in restructuring, and obviously being the chief analyst, I think you're sort of privy to some sort of business strategy behind that. You've closed down a lot of the traditional browser titles that you did recently. You went heavily into buying Frogster and investing in client games, and I'm hearing you're also doing a lot in mobile. Is that where you see your future, like client and mobile, and is browser for you something that's not as interesting anymore?
Of course, the time for reaping the low-hanging fruit is definitely over, at least for us. So we chose to restructure our company and focus on the core strengths we have. So last year we began to restructure and reorganize our company to integrate Frogster in order to get more competitive in the future. That meant, of course, to close all the games that weren't profitable anymore, or weren't profitable as we wanted them to do. So, and I think we put more strength on the client-based MMOs. We were very successful in publishing Metin here in Europe, and we will do so with Ion and Terra if they come, and if the sneak peek, of course, will. Yeah. So, and secondly, if we got our firm pillar in that MMO client-based market, I think we've got the time and the funds for developing own browser-based games again. So, and of course, the internet usage pattern is changing these days. The desktop usage is being replaced by smartphone and of course iPad and other platform usage. So we of course are engaging in the mobile market, developing and testing concepts of games that are adaptable to the smartphones, pads, and of course other platforms that will be smart.
Okay. Hendrik, you've been dabbling or trying your first client game that didn't work out that well for you because you basically stopped doing it. And now are you sort of fully dedicated to doing browser and maybe a bit of mobile, or where do you see your niche or your corner of the market? Niche sounds so small.
Yeah. First, I want to say I think browser is not a niche; it's a very huge market and still has a lot of growth potential. In the future, players will use, of course, the mobile devices and will use their tablets. And this means in the future, we have to make sure that our players can reach our games by the browser, which will be always important, but also by mobile devices, by tablets, reaching the same game world, not some games which only run on mobile or something like this. We want to make sure that our players are able to play their games anytime with every device they have to reach their game worlds.
Does this, to follow on that, does this limit your game choices to a degree? Because obviously there is a technical limitation to what you can do in a mobile. There's connection issues. You can't do real-time player versus player as easily. So does this mean basically it's a resurgence of the old browser games that we still all know and do? Porting them to mobile is fairly easy, and that's about the level that we're going to see? Or...
Yeah, there are some kinds of games we don't want to do. For example, first-person shooter action games or sport action games. We clearly say this is not our core competence. We want to make strategy games, role-playing games, and simulations. And these games are possible on mobile devices. These are possible on browser and on tablets. And so for the games we want to make, there are no real limits. It's just that some devices have some strengths. For example, the browser has a very big screen size, whereas the mobile device has push notifications and is always available. We want to use the different strengths of the different devices, but we don't want to limit us. Or for the games we want to make, there are no limits caused by the devices.
Which brings me automatically to Heiko, because Big Point's been almost notorious in pushing the boundaries of browser games, technically. You've done things like Battlestar very successfully. You've done things like Poisonville less successfully. And it seems that you're, like Big Point is the one company daring to go where no company has gone before in terms of the browser. But then, obviously, this leads away from the mobile business. So do you see Big Point as being like stretching a little wider there? Because you're not going into client as far as I know. You're doing browsers that look very well, and you're doing obviously mobile with a lot of your recent titles aimed at the more casual audience. So is this basically the strategy market? You're concentrating on doing shooters actually in the browser, and another platform for mobile games?
So it's not really right that we're not going for client games. We don't develop client games at the moment. We don't license client games at the moment. But let's see, with new technologies, it might be more interesting in the future also look in the client-based market. But at the moment, there's no focus in our company on that. In terms of a browser and what you can do in browser games, yes, absolutely. We're always looking for a new limitation in a browser, a new limitation in terms of technology. And with engines like Unity, you're quite flexible now, developing really high quality games in a browser. And we see with games like, as you mentioned, Battlestar Galactica, or as well with Dragon's Den, we have developed really good quality games in the browser. And we see that we can convince traditional gamers who played console games, PC games in the past, that they're now moving into the browser space and are willing to spend money there. And those users are really, really interesting for us because they're very loyal, they stay for a long time and spend a lot of money on our games. In the casual space, what we also offer, that's a complete different market here, because here you have a huge market, mass market, but a very, very short lifetime with these users. They don't stay for years with you, and they only spend only is not the right word, but they don't spend that much than a hardcore user. So we try to go in both directions, so to be more diversified in our company. That's one thing. And the other thing regarding mobile, I totally agree. This is the future. In the future, I'm really 100% convinced that the future of gaming is on tablet PCs and mobile devices. I think maybe not the next Xbox and not the next PlayStation, but maybe in a couple of years, in 3, 4, 5 years, we see see mobile devices which are PlayStations and an Xbox called.
Florian, your company has been traditionally more, let's say, conservative in growing, less aggressively pursuing technical boundaries, less aggressively pursuing new games. Seems to be sort of a slowly growing thing, and then you start to buy in developers that you feel have been working well with you. What is do you think you can compete at the level of the other guys in terms of growth, or is it that you rather have a smaller but solid base, or is it just that you have so many players you can afford to slowly grow?
Yeah, you're right, and I think we just have another focus. So we do not focus growth, just growth, but we have more focus on sustainability and less on revenues, but more on of the profit, and therefore we have another strategy of growing, and it's more important for us to optimize the processes and the structure and the systems and all that stuff. So it's a kind of slower growth at the moment, but if you do a very, very fast growth, sometimes you have to restructure that, and we are just focusing on, to optimize all the stuff and the structures from the beginning.
Now, looking at your games, by and large, and I can't pretend to actually know them all deeply, but they seem to be not the traditional like hardcore games that Heiko mentioned, like the classical gamer games. And yet, you speak about lifetime sustainability, very much the arguments Heiko found for this demographic. But you're doing the same thing with a different demographic, apparently. Or do you? I mean, it seems to be more casual-oriented, wider audience, more mainstream. We see Travian doing things in the Middle East. Your famous Middle Eastern powerhouse there. Is it possible to get people to stay and pay for a longer time if you do the games carefully, even if they are not like core gamers? Or do you see your people as core gamers?
I'd call Travian definitely a core game. It's definitely not a hardcore game, but it's definitely a core game. It's no casual game at all. So it's definitely possible to keep people for quite a long time in the game. And that is also one of our main issues, to have a long life cycle of the players. And definitely it's possible. Okay.
There's two players that we haven't talked to yet, who are taking a slightly different approach. I'll start with Gamigo. You guys are churning out a slew of license-based games. You're investing in both client and browser games. And you seem to be, if there was a tag to each company, you probably would be the gamers company, gamers games, because they most of them are either gamer licenses that are a little older, or are really hardcore genres or settings. Is that where you see yourself, or are you just sort of going with the flow based on the client games that you already have, or is it really this is your market that you want to corner?
The audience for Gamigo is definitely a core audience. We have an approach with the Cultures Online, which is a little bit more casual, but if you have a deeper look at the game mechanics itself, this is also a core game similar to Travian. Maybe in the end you say it's a casual game, but the game mechanics they are really a core, and by this we have also long-term a lifetime for the players itself. And yes, you are right. We are focusing on topics which are interesting for gamers. I'm at the panel on Thursday when we talk about brands in browser games and also in free-to-play games. With Jack the Lions, we have a game which is based on the very famous tactical series Jack the Lions, and by this our approach is definitely to go for the core and for the hardcore players, which does not mean that we think that casual is not a right step to go or the right way to go, but it's another approach, and we go for the core gamer.
Jack the Lion's great game, by the way. Cliffhanger Productions does it. My company. Marcus, you've been almost, getting every interesting license out there. In terms of you've struck deals with Sony, you struck deals with Marvel. So you're really creating a very big window for branded IP games. Is that something where you think the future lies? Is that a USP against like 20 other browser games that may work similar but don't really say anything to anybody unless you actually played them?
Yes, I think that will be the future, besides bringing games to different devices like mobile, for example, which is also a big focus for us in the future. But if you take a look to the market and you see how many games, browser-based games, client-based games are coming to the market, the market is more or less flooded from new games. So I think, and I'm quite sure that IPs will help to make games successful, because that will get more focus from the people, because they know the games, they know brands like Marvel, like DC Universe, for example. So I think, I'm quite sure, and just take a look to the console game market. It's going to be more and more important to have big IPs in the portfolio.
Maybe I can add something to that. I think the time is over for browser games that you just be different through saying, okay, my game is a free-to-play game. You can play it for free. But these times are over. 5, 6, 7 years ago, that was really something why the user played a browser game, because it was just for free and easy to enter. And now some of the things, what makes a difference is the fun of the game, the IP, the quality, technology, and all these kind of things. So that matters much more now than, 2-3 years ago.
Yeah. When thinking about mobile, where discovery is even more difficult, and discovery is one of the key things for a free-to-play game to get noticed. On a mobile, it's almost impossible. Like on an Android device, it's almost impossible to find a game unless you specifically know where to look. Oh, it's in the top 10, which not many games get. So is that a strategy then to save you against the anonymity of the mobile app market as well, or do you see different ways? Because if you're all going into mobile, obviously you have to think about how to present your games there, because if it's just growth from your own product, then you can cannibalize yourselves. Are you going to see different players on mobile, or it's going to be the same players that already play Travian, that already play Die Stämme, and that just play through a different device then? How are you going to manage to be discovered if you don't have an IP?
Talking to me?
Somebody.
Okay, so I think what we have seen, a big point with our mobile games we launched so far, is that the people really want to play exactly the same game they play in a browser. The first IP we launched from our own IPs we launched on mobile was Farmerama, and we decided just to launch maybe, let's say, a third of all the most important feature, and just offer to the users that they can play, they can harvest their farm and all this kind of stuff. And what we have seen is that the people complained, our user complained a lot about the game, and not because the game was pure quality, just because they couldn't play the entire game. So if you want to launch your game, your browser game, on the mobile device, you have to launch 100% of all the feature, and the same time for the future, for all the new features, you have to add all the time the same features on both devices. That's very, very, very important. In terms of other mobile games, I think mobile games is the most hit-driven business in the gaming industry at all. Because what we see here is in the traditional industry, you could talk to retailers, they pay you maybe a guarantee fee and all this kind of stuff. In the browser games business, maybe you have already a user group, maybe you go to Google, buy some AdWords and all this kind of stuff. So you can do something. But on mobile, if you're not in the App Store, in the top 20, top 30, or top 50, you have no chance really to get the critical mass of users. So I think this is a very hit-driven business. And even here, quality and fun in the game matters much more in any other industry at the moment in the gaming industry.
So, Hendrik, how are you going to make sure that people discover you in your games, unless they already play your game and then you're just moving people from the left pocket to the right pocket?
I think we're going to help these guys with our TV power.
Of course, they can always help us.
To bring with our TV commercials to kick these games into the top 10 App Store, and then to get the visibility. But I think, especially in the mobile field, the distribution and the marketing power will be more important than in the online games field.
Yeah, but that's clearly one strategy. But if everybody does it, then it's sort of it's good for you. But it's probably sort of getting equaled out for everybody else. So do you see alternative strategies, or is it like Pro 7 is the only way to go?
No, there may be also other ways. First, I want to say I don't think it's really left pocket, right pocket. There are players who use both. They play sometimes with the browser, and then they play later with a mobile device while they are away. So it's not that we are just shifting players and losing them on the other side. The browser helps us to get into the App Store rankings, of course, because we can announce the game to our existing player base. And we have seen this with Tribal Wars. We have, similar to Heiko, launched a version of our game with limited functionality, but still we hit the App Store rankings in the first days very successful. It works. And yeah, there are new versions to come, new versions which will have more features, what the players want. And then the browser will help us to get a steady user base. And on the other hand, of course, we have to do use some similar marketing strategies as some other companies who are already in the mobile market.
Okay, because I mean the App Store ranking usually is a fleeting thing. I mean you don't stay in the App Store for weeks or months. You're going to be there for a while, and then you're going to drop down, and some other app is going to come along and push you out. But if you say you're looking for a lifetime, you want additional users apart from the ones that pushed you in the App Store. So how do you keep that fire burning?
Lifetime has nothing to do with the ranking in the App Store, because lifetime means you're already installed on the device, and then you just monetize.
No, sorry, I meant product lifetime in terms of the first generation of users comes in through the App Store, the thing goes down. Where do you get the second generation, the third generation of users? I'm really asking. I'm interested. Mm-hmm.
This will be classical mobile marketing.
Okay, so you just do mobile marketing.
And of course, there will still always come an amount of players coming from the browser to the mobile device. Some players start on the browser, later use the mobile device. For some players, it's the other way around.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think one step to success is to leverage the existing user base, of course. But on the other hand, traditional management methods such as CRM and QA and marketing, brand building are becoming more and more important. If you're caring for that your mobile app is some kind of a quality app, some sexy app, I think it will strive against the competition. And you can use your existing user base in order to push you up into the rankings that are most attractive, to attract different users that haven't been with your company before.
Okay. Apart from the mobile market, we've of course got another big market, which is social gaming. And when we initially did the panel, and we talked to the guys in the US organizing it, the first thing they asked me was like, why are you even talking about that? Everybody's on Facebook. So who of you is on Facebook?
What do you mean on Facebook?
In terms of your games are freely available on Facebook regularly. In terms, like most of your games are available. Any of your games are available. You've got your Facebook game.
We have one Facebook game, but the primary focus for us is Facebook as a marketing channel, implementing Facebook Connect as a feature of game discovery. This should help us to drive new players, but I think Facebook as a marketing channel is done by all of us. Right. Yeah. See it correctly.
But we don't see it as the platform to be. How do you explain the difference? I mean, apart from the fact that you're probably not used to giving them 30% of your revenue, which you would have to have if you used Facebook credit, why is it such a different situation for you than for almost everybody else in America? Or do you see them moving off Facebook anytime soon?
I think we have one very successful company in Germany with Vuga on Facebook, so I don't think this is a typical American thing. Mainly, I think we all, especially we developer, maybe just missed the opportunity because we haven't seen that. We were so focused on our own companies, on our products, on our market, the browser games market. We are growing that fast that I think would be maybe even wrong if we would focus now on Facebook and just run companies like Zynga and so on behind. So I think going now on Facebook and doing something on Facebook is definitely right. But from our company point of view, we don't want to change our strategy. So we use Facebook. We will add a couple games on Facebook, but the primary focus is browser and maybe mobile in the future. So going to the next trend, the next big thing, what comes after Facebook.
Okay. So all right. So you all agree where Facebook basically, we just passed that by as a German entity, we just passed that by and then.
But only because we missed it, not because it was a plan or a strategy.
I would also agree. There's companies who are successful, but we all have to think where do we want to be successful. We cannot be successful everywhere. We have to focus. And the browser is very strong. The browser is very stable, and this is why the browser plays a very important role for us.
Is that the case? I mean, in general, do you see the market? I mean, we've got acquisition costs going up, we've got development costs going up, obviously. Do you see a change in the market? I mean, are you seeing, let's say, not less growth, but growth that's harder to attain? Is it harder for you getting players in and keeping the growth numbers that you've had like 2, 3, 4 years ago?
Yeah, of course. I think it's the same for everyone. That of course the competition gets more difficult and there are more competitors, and the cost for acquisition is increasing. But that's just the challenge, to be better and to optimize and to be successful. Yeah. But that the market is harder than it has been 3 years before, I think that's a fact.
What do you see in terms of competition from the Asian MMOs? I mean, has traditionally been client MMOs, but now more and more companies go in that do browser games as well, and they're pretty productive in terms of the amount of game they can churn out in the amount of time, and they've got full, very deeply filled pockets. So is that a threat? Do you see a threat there, or do you think that no, they aren't that interesting because I don't know they don't fit to the market that well, or they have different player profiles? Do you see Asian companies?
I don't see them as an issue here in Europe at the moment. I don't see many successful Asian browser games at the moment in the European market. There are some, but not many. I think the bigger issue is in the US market. I've been in the US now for the last 2 years, and our biggest competitors have been in the last 2 years Asian companies, not American companies. They have they have really huge marketing budgets. They don't care about a cost per registration. They just want to buy the mass and the critical mass and the games. So in the US, I think there's definitely an issue. In Europe, not yet, but it's just a matter of time when we also try to enter the European market. In terms of competitor, I think what we see is now a consolidation in the market. We see more and more browser games companies, especially here in Europe, who are getting in trouble. So just because the user acquisition is getting more expensive, the quality needs more investments from your side in terms of IP, in terms of marketing, in terms of employee, and so on and so on. So I think in the next maybe 1 or 2 years are getting quite tough for this market, but then we have a much cleaner market and a much more profitable market in the future.
So, and of course, you're all set to profit from a much cleaner market in the future, because none of you is actually going to go down. Asian MMOs, I mean, Christian, maybe you can add a bit to that, because you've been very active in Asia. You've been porting games from Asia over here. You've got a good view of the market there.
Yeah, so actually what we do at Gamigo in the past couple of years, many of our successful games come from Asia. We have very deep partnerships with Asian partners, mainly also from Korea, especially, who have a very long experience with free-to-play games. So we learned a lot of these games, and also by cooperating with these partners. On the other hand, what we also see is that some demands from the players could not be fulfilled with the products that are offered by Korean companies, for example. So what we do, we changed the strategy to develop also games directly in Germany and in Europe, to fit to the needs of the players. So as I just said, with Jack the Lions, we are working together with Cliffhanger very closely. We are working together with Fanatics, who are the developer for Cultures Online, for example. And this, of course, means that there's a huge opportunity also for a developer from North America and from Europe, if they focus on topics and on game mechanics which are not understood fully from the Asian partners. Of course, there are Of course, they also learn very fast. But on the other hand, if you go into this direction and focus and learn and be one step ahead, you have the chance to be successful with games which are developed in Europe. So I think, that there's definitely the chance for European developer. On the other hand, as Heiko said, this is really one of the most hit-driven markets. So it is very difficult for small developers to have this one hit, and by this, this is why publishing companies like Big Point or Gamigo are there to also help the developer, because we have a portfolio strategy so that we don't have to be successful with every single game that we publish.
Mark, maybe you want to?
I think it's a proven model of success in order to let the games be developed in Asia and publish it locally here with the help of a local distributor and publisher who adapts to the local needs here in Europe. As proof for that, just several weeks ago, NHN Games launched a strategic partnership with Area Games in order to serve North American, South American, Europe markets with their games. So NHA, a major Korean developer of client-based MMO games, chose a Westerner in order to serve the Western market, a market that won't be easily to address by themselves, since Asians thinking differently to Westerners and vice versa.
Okay, so you think it's more of a marketing issue? So just that most of the Asian companies haven't gone around to understanding maybe the European structure with different languages and different cultures, or is it inherent in the games? I mean, would you say there's no need for like, because Gamigo basically says okay, we need special Western games that have some sort of difference, presumably something like story, or I don't know, whatever the magic ingredient is that makes it acceptable to Westerners and less acceptable to Chinese or the other way around.
Asian developers have learned over the time. At least Terra, for instance, was already a more westernized game in comparison to other Asian games. So they already made their games more global in the development process. So we just had to adapt to the local issues, maybe for Hungary, Poland, and other different nations where no Asian is aware of that there are so many different European nations.
Henrik, you've been making inroads into Korea with your game. Was that difficult? I mean, you've had a subsidiary there, and now how did you see the market coming from the other side? Because that's a rare thing to actually go with a Western game into the Korean market.
The Korean players are interested in browser-based, web-based gaming. You have to make some changes to the game, so we changed the layout of the homepages, changed the pictures of the gods, because it is a different culture. It is not, it involves several steps to be successful in Korea. You have to have local servers there for better performance. It's not as easy, for example, as launching just in Europe. There are different things you have to prepare, but then you can gain sustainable amount of players and loyal player base, and they stay, and that's cool.
Maybe because we're running out of time, if any of you have any questions, you can sort of warm up to them. Maybe somebody else already something?
I was curious if any of the panel up there saw Trip Hawkins' presentation earlier today, and what your reaction to the idea of freegameleaders.com as a mechanism for exchanging traffic on browser-based games looks like to your business.
Did you see? Probably none of them. So you maybe explain a bit about what Trip had in mind.
I was present at the presentation. The first impression I got was, oh, they're 4 years late. We did so in 2007. We had web-based portals for online games. Look at bigpoint.com over there. And so it's nothing new to us. It's just new for Americans, maybe, from my point of view. And it's a good idea, definitely, in order to evade Facebook and its constraints and the 30% leverage that they do on your revenue. So, but it's nothing new.
See, we're so far ahead. We've done that in like 3 years ago. Maybe looking at technology, we see the browser as a platform, and that also ties in with Tripp's presentation a bit. Changing. If you look at the next Internet Explorer, if you look at the increasing tendency to have sort of app-based interfaces, the browser as a basic medium for your games that have some established rules like discovery is sort of slowly going away, and it's changing towards something that's more of an app-based, more of a push thing. When I have to download an app for any game, more or less, and even if it's just sort of a link and an exe that launches my game, then a lot of the received wisdoms, like you have to have Flash to have a broad installation base, or HTML5 maybe then for an open 6, they all sort of go away, because if it's all an app, then you can pretty much not differentiate between a client and a browser game anymore, because it's just something that you put on your desktop and something downloads in the background, and it's different amounts of gigabyte. Is that going to change the whole game fundamentally for you as your business, or are you saying that, or would you think that doesn't make much of a difference because we use traditional channels of marketing and everything else still? Maybe it's making your life easier as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I said. The quality and the fun of the games matters much more in the future, and not just the game is for free. You can play it in a browser as a Flash game or something like that. So I think, by the way, this is very helpful for companies, for the traditional developers who really has developed games for years now, because for them it's nothing new just to develop a good game that people download and can play. The business model free-to-play, item selling, that's nothing new anymore. There's no magic anymore behind that. The people figure that out quite quick how to do that. So definitely, that's why one of the reasons why BigPoint has acquired, I don't know, 3-4 traditional developers just in the last 18 months, just because to get all the knowledge in our company how to produce really very high quality games. The browser at the moment is just a platform we are using because for us it's the easiest access to our users. But for the future, I think apps are the future, and then we don't care about that anymore. Then we just care about user interface, screen sizes, and something like that. That's totally different then again.
We have a question from the...
Henrik, you didn't buy any developers recently.
Oh, well,
you did. Sorry, you did actually. Yes. Traditional developers. So you're on the right path there, obviously.
I think Unity, for example, makes a lot of sense. You can achieve very high graphical quality within the browser, and there's a chance that you can use this game development also for other devices, like the tablets, for example. So this is the reason why we acquired a developer which is developing in Unity. On the other hand, there are still some years where Flash will be very successful. If you look at, for example, on Facebook, all of the big games, I think, are currently based on the Flash platform. So also this platform has a future for many years.
Florian, do you agree? I mean, do you do any Unity games? I'm not aware.
No, we have no Unity games at the moment. Yeah, I think Heiko and Henrik said everything. Of course, technology possibilities are increasing, and there are different ways to get those high quality games. Unity is one. There are others as well, and we will see that quality will raise fundamentally in the next years.
But doesn't that also mean that you kind of sort of the markets are drifting apart? I mean, there is a lot of areas like Turkey, Middle East, North Africa, South America, where the hardware isn't at the same level than in Western Europe or US. Even Russia, they've got good hardware, but they've got a lot of bad connections, depending on the city you're in. So is that going to create an imbalance again for the browser which basically is appealing because it's a universal medium and you can run a Flash game on almost any digital device, be that an alarm clock or an actual computer? So is that something where you have two versions, one for the people that can't run Unity or whatever high-end device, and one for people that can?
I think you need different market strategies for those kind of markets. So a market like India, Russia, or they even maybe skip the broadband stuff. They will skip the PC market. They go directly to the mobile market. So maybe not for Russia, that's not the right case, but for for South America, for India and those markets, that's you don't have to think about browser games or client-based games because just they don't have the bandwidth. They go directly and buy a tablet, a smartphone, or something like that, and surf with those kind of devices and the internet, and using that as an entertainment device as well.
But isn't that sort of a contradiction if you say the quality is going to rise, we're going to do better graphics and everything else, at the same time the bandwidth in India is still down?
Yeah.
So
but that's not a problem because those kind of countries, they have already then 3G, they have the newest generation of smartphones then, because it's much cheaper. Smartphone you buy for a couple €100, and if you need a really gamer PC, you have to spend a couple thousand. So there's a huge difference. And if you go more outside the cities, the only way to get a connection to those people is through mobile devices. So on the mobile device, you don't have this issue of quality or whatever, because here the casual games work, the hardcore games work, and the normal kind of games works. So I think that's not an issue. If you would like to enter those markets, I don't think these are low-hanging fruits at the moment. There are other countries more interesting, just long term.
Mark, you look like you're saying.
I think you should see the plug-in based techniques such as Flash or Unity only as a bridging technology until HTML5 is mature enough to serve all needs on all devices. Otherwise, you won't get. Who says that Unity will be the last plug-in that will be invented in the next 2 years that is be useful in order to differentiate your product from your neighbor's product? But on the end, you will have many platforms and many techniques and many plugins. You have to care for it. You have to serve them. You have to see that the user updates it enough. Also, it's
okay. So you see the future in HTML5 basically as some sort of OpenGL whatever device that's
in the mid to long run, of course.
Okay.
Jan, you have a question down here.
Hey, great.
I think it was Marcus that said that CRM and marketing and QA, all of these associated services are an important part of the mix now. And I just wondered how much active player management and relationship building is part of your future success?
I think you addressed me, right? Okay. Of course, we got our community management that's actively engaging with the user every day. So, we are currently developing a system for preventing churn and re-engaging users in order to don't let them from the hook. Just watch for them. Okay, when does the activity level drop too much? And then, okay, it's initial. It's the spark for setting off measures in order to counter that. It's a classical approach. You can see it by. It's something it's used in the internet industry, in the telecommunications industry every day. I think to apply these methods will be a good idea in order to get the user engaged, not let him go in order to acquire him dearly for a lot of money.
We talked about social games on Facebook. I think Facebook is a perfect CRM tool for you. You don't have to develop a Facebook game. Just use the easiest function like button or Facebook Connect or something like that. You can be so good in touch with your users, and you know so much more about your users. So Facebook is a great CRM tool for that.
I was curious if the panel thinks there's any life left in the subscription-based model, or is everything now moving to freemium?
It's always me. Sorry. I believe that in the future subscription, but you will buy items on a subscription base. So I don't think it's just you buy an item, you spend once money, and next month you have to fight against for the revenue and for the user who spent money in your game. So buy some stuff in your game on a subscription-based level. I think that's something new we will see very soon in many games.
So it's more of a convenience tool than you don't have to buy every single time, but you just get what you want to.
Even if you talk again about emerging markets, those kind of users, they don't have $20 to spend to buy the best spaceship or something like that. Yeah. But maybe they have $1 or $2. Maybe they have it every month. So maybe just rent or whatever you want to call it, the spaceship to them, and they pay $2 a month.
Okay, so it's a lease your item model, basically. It's a leasing model. To a degree.
If you lease it, maybe you can buy it later on, but I like rent more.
Okay.
Since you guys were talking about getting attention to a new product, and lots of companies now do IP-driven games. So is IP now the thing to establish yourself when you do a new game?
Let's maybe Hendrik, yes, because you don't have any IP apart from your own, of course, which is
well, we have our own IPs, but until now we didn't license any external IP. I think to get attention, IP could help, but at the end, in the long run, you have to convince the players with the quality of your game. And I also see the risk with IPs that we have talked about with some IPs, that you get some limitations, which limit you from making the perfect game because they don't want to have some violence in the game or something like this, or some game features. And this could be a limit, and of course we want to make the best games, and then it could be easier to just avoid the IP.
We're going to have a panel actually on IP issues on Thursday at sometime 3 or something. You can get there and ask that question again, because we're looking at a bit about those issues and also regarding the processes that are involved in dealing with IP, which can be cumbersome, as a couple of companies already discovered. Right, I think we've got time for one more, if anybody wants to have a go.
One more question? Do you see any hands? My eyes are going.
No.
All right, well, you have one more question then.
I don't know whether you're allowed. You already had one. Oh, okay, go ahead.
No, not me. I don't have a question.
Yeah. Basically, I want to end it with the famous finish the sentence thing. And my sentence starts with Zynga is Marcus.
Big right now.
Big right now, which implies the sort of transcendence of being big. Okay, Florian?
Zynga is a big American story.
Story meaning there isn't much substance? I'm trying to get you to actually...
It's open for interpretation, I would say.
Okay. Heiko, you all live next to the guys, so...
I think Zynga is a company we will see for a long, long time in this industry, and it will be a long, long time one of the biggest gaming companies in the world.
Hendrik?
I would say Zynga is, on the one hand, a fascinating story and also a fascinating company, but I prefer maybe more sustainable growth and focus on maybe a bit of different kind of games.
Mark?
Yeah, Zynga is a major threat for casual games developers and publishers, but not for the rest, I think. And of course, right now it's too much tied to Facebook. It's not open enough, and it's not mobile enough right now, at least.
I think Zynga is a great example how to work with figures. So everyone, I think, can learn a lot of them. On the other hand, I don't think that they are at the moment a great threat in terms of game design for core players. So this is really more about the casual games Heiko has to think about.
Okay.
I will.
All right, okay, so we're not scared of Zynga, apparently. Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope you enjoyed it, and enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you. Thank you for the panelists.